Hey folks, this is Kelani. Losing our artifact abilities and traits might be a pretty huge blow for quite a few classes, but the newest class on the block was designed almost entirely with their artifact in mind. The way they play is intertwined so incredibly closely with their artifacts that it being removed left me wondering what they would do to patch the holes left in HAVOC Demon Hunters. Well, as it turns out, they patched everything up quite nicely, even if they do lose a button or two. Let's get down to the nitty-gritty of what makes a HAVOC Demon Hunter tick in Battle for Azeroth. So the baseline kit for Demon Hunters hasn't really changed, almost at all. Sadly, nothing from the artifact has been baked into the class, so it plays a lot like the Demon Hunter intro section where you didn't quite have your artifact. That means it does feel a little basic, a little bland, but thankfully our talents add in quite a few options later down the line. So we'll still be building Fury with Demon's Bite, deal a bit of damage and generate 20 to 30 Fury, and spending it with Chaos Strike, deal a lot more damage with a 40 Fury cost. Even though that's pretty much what we do right now, there's actually an interesting change here already. Instead of refunding Fury on a crit, Chaos Strike now has a flat 40% chance to refund 20 Fury. It might seem like a small change, but that's actually pretty significant. First, that means Demon Hunters might not be as reliant on critical strike rating as they were in Legion, opening up potential in the other secondary stats, and second, that's actually a pretty high chance for a refund. Getting to 40% crit would probably take quite a bit of gearing up in Battle for Azeroth, so it's actually a straight buff to that refund mechanic, especially for the early game. It's worth noting that our Fury cap is currently set at 100, so we're 40 lower than in Legion. That means we'll end up capping Fury much easier, and we can't stockpile enough Fury for more than 2 Chaos Strikes in a row, unless we get lucky with the refunds. We have a few other abilities to round out our baseline kit as well. I-Beam isn't going anywhere, but it has changed a little bit. It now costs 30 Fury baseline, its cooldown has been reduced to 30 seconds, and the primary target now takes 100% increased damage, making it always worth using, even on single target. I-Beam is also still guaranteed to crit, another reason why we probably won't be hunting for crit come Battle for Azeroth. There's also Blade Dance, which hasn't really changed. Deal a small amount of damage to all nearby enemies and gain 100% dodge for 1 second with a 35 Fury cost. I don't know how much more we'll be using Blade Dance because some of our AoE potential from talents was nerfed or removed, so we might actually use Blade Dance in some AoE scenarios, and then we also have Chaos Nova, which is no longer a stun. Instead it will disorient targets that are hit, making it significantly less powerful as a crowd control. It still has the 30 Fury cost, but now every enemy hit has a 50% chance to generate a lesser soul fragment, which has some interesting potential, though it would be significantly more powerful if we still had all of our artifact stuff. The last offensive ability we have is Glaive Toss, which can hit up to 3 targets for quite a small amount of damage at range. And we wouldn't be a Demon Hunter without Metamorphosis. We're starting on a 4-minute cooldown. Let's see if anything works to reduce that later on. We might get something on Azerite gear or something similar. Nothing has really changed with meta. Turn into a giant demon, gain 20% leech, 25% haste, and your Chaos Strike and Blade Dance deal more damage. Still leaves a little to be desired, like affecting a few other abilities, but at least it didn't have parts removed from it. There's a handful of passives to go along with our offensive abilities as well. First up, let's check out our Mastery, Demonic Presence, which hasn't changed at all. Mastery increases our chaos damage and movement speed. We also have Shattered Souls. Killing an enemy can spawn a soul fragment which heals you when you pick it up, and if it's a demon soul you also get bonus damage. We still have Double Jump to get over those pesky walls that keeps all the lesser classes held back, as well as a new passive called Chaos Brand. Your chaos damage brands the target, causing them to take increased magic damage from all sources. So you're going to want at least one Demon Hunter in your group if you're running some caster DPS, so pretty much in every raid group at the very least. We also have our utility and movement abilities like Fell Rush, Dash Forward to make everyone jealous about our superior mobility on a 10-second cooldown with 2 charges. We also have Vengeful Retreat to look really cool while flipping backwards, Imprison for a quick crowd control on demons, beasts or humanoids. This actually had its cooldown increased to 45 seconds. We also have Blur for a short defensive cooldown which increases your dodge by 50% and reduces all damage taken by 33% for 10 seconds, and our good old RNG Death Blanket Darkness, which currently says 0%, but I would expect that to remain more or less the same as it is on live if it doesn't get removed in the next few months. We also have Consume Magic, a 10-yard range interrupt that generates 50 fury on a successful interrupt. There's also Spectral Sight, which will be interesting to see if we get any use out of at all now that Legion is coming to a close, and HAVOC also gets Torment as baseline, so it can taunt again as a DPS for those moments when you really want to annoy your tanks, or maybe save the day with some awesome Metamorphosis leeching. So the baseline kit of Demon Hunters is more or less the same, just a few tweaks here and there to make things feel a little more complete without our artifacts. I mentioned it earlier, but talents really are where HAVOC starts to shine. There's a few options here which should be familiar, as well as quite a few new talents, but the major changes to talents comes in how they've been moved around. Let's see how things are shaping up so far. The first row is all about Fury generation. We have Blind Fury. I-Beam generates Fury over its duration and lasts 50% longer. Still a very strong talent, but the lower Fury cap does mean you almost always waste some of that Fury. Demonic Appetite is also on this row now, so here's the first choice we're going to have to make. Chaos Strike has a chance to spawn a lesser Soul Fragment, and any Soul Fragment consumes generates 30 Fury. To round out this row, we have Fell Blade. Generates 50 Fury on a 12-second cooldown, and Demon's Bite can reset its cooldown. The second row is also about Fury generation because that's half of HAVOC anyways. Insatiable Hunger might look familiar. Demon's Bite can generate up to 10 additional Fury, so that's one legendary effect turned into a talent. Demon Blades is still an option to turn Demon Bite into a passive effect that has a 60% chance to trigger on your auto attacks, and then the last talent on this row is Immolation Aura. If you wanted to be all fiery, just like Illidan in Warcraft 3, but didn't want to tank, now you too can set yourself on fire. You also generate 80 Fury over 10 seconds, so that's pretty handy. On to the next row, we have some AoE talents. Trail of Ruin causes Blade Dance to deal damage over time to everything it hits, Fell Mastery increases the damage of Fell Rush by 100%, and Fell Barrage unleashes a torrent of energy into all enemies nearby, which is actually pretty OP right now. It's already been nerfed once on the beta, and it's still an insane amount of damage, especially in AoE situations. I would be surprised if anyone took the other talents at this rate. Fell Barrage was always pretty strong, but it couldn't compete with the other talents on the same row. Now it doesn't have much competition at all, now that it's moved to a different row. Time for some defensive talents. Soul Rending increases your leech by 10%, an additional 10% while in Metamorphosis, so you get a little bit outside of meta, which is a really nice change. Desperate Instincts increases the damage reduction of Blur by 15%, and it auto-triggers if you drop below 35% health. Netherwalk is our Get Out of Jail free card, become immune for 5 seconds, but unable to attack. A bit more damage on the next row. Cycle of Hatred reduces your cooldown on Metamorphosis by 3 seconds whenever Chaos Strike refunds Fury, so 40% of the time you also get a bit of meta CD chipped off. First Blood reduces the Fury cost of Blade Dance and increases its damage against the first target struck, and then we have Dark Slash, which is an interesting and frustrating talent. 20-second cooldown, slash your enemy for a bit of damage and increase the damage Chaos Strike does to that target for 8 seconds. That's a bit of a double-edged sword. It's basically another damage window like Colossus Smash for Arms Warriors or Vulnerable for Hunters. I absolutely hate damage windows, but this one is actually not super terrible. The cooldown is short, the uptime is high, and there's zero RNG involved, which makes it very reliable. It's also probably going to be a mandatory talent. At the moment I don't see the other two even coming close to touching Dark Slash, so we'll have to see if any further balancing can bring it closer. Typically these types of abilities are either better or worse. There's never much room for a middle ground, but they also usually have an RNG element, so I'm both anxious and excited to see how Dark Slash turns out. It is pretty satisfying filling up your rage bar with I-Beam and then going Dark Slash into a series of Chaos Strikes. Seems to work out quite well. Hopping down a row, we have Unleashed Power. Remove the cost of Chaos Nova and reduce its cooldown by 33%. Not so amazing now that Chaos Nova isn't a stun, but still nice. Master of the Glaive makes Glaive Toss snare all targets hit for 6 seconds, and Fell Eruption does a little bit of damage and stuns your target for 4 seconds. 10 Fury cost on a 30-second cooldown. Notice that it no longer does bonus damage to stun immune monsters, so a bit of a loss there. Our last row has been filled with a little, but we still have Demonic. When I-Beam finishes, you go meta for 8 seconds. Still incredibly strong and a whole bunch of fun to use, but Momentum has also joined the last talent row. Fell Rush increases your damage by 15% for 6 seconds, and Vengeful Retreat CD is reduced, and it generates 100 Fury over 10 seconds if you damage at least one enemy. So if you want that hop out, hop in gameplay, Momentum is here, but it has to compete with Demonic and our last talent, Nemesis. Increases the damage you deal to to a single target by 25% for 1 minute, and if you manage to kill them, you'll gain 25% additional damage against all creature types that match the original target. Same deal as we have right now, and probably our best choice for single target encounters. So that's all of our talents. There's quite a few choices to be made there depending on how you want to end up playing your Demon Hunter. It's kind of like you have a basic toy which works fairly well on its own, but then you get to choose between a whole set of cool accessories. I'm having a bunch of fun with Demon Hunter on the beta and I'm finding it really enjoyable to play. So if you enjoy it in Legion, you'll probably still enjoy it in Battle for Azeroth. It plays out more or less the same. If you are hoping for a whole new class with changes left, right and center, you might want to check out something else. I'm not too sure what I'm enjoying more though, how HAVOC is actually playing, or just how powerful it is. One of the little tests that I've been putting all the classes through is a game of how much can I pull and actually survive. For a lot of classes, handling more than 3 or 4 mobs is actually pretty difficult. On a HAVOC Demon Hunter, I can pull almost as much as I want right now, providing I don't get stunned or crowd controlled, so they're definitely shaping up to be a strong class, and I'm having a lot of fun too, so it's definitely a win-win right now. Have you played Demon Hunter on the beta yet? Are you playing one right now on live? What do you think about these changes overall? Leave all your thoughts in the comment section below. A big thank you to all of our supporters over on Patreon. It seems like 1 or 2 chaps hop on the train every week. If you want to join us, you can find a link in the description below. Remember to leave a like just below the video before you leave, and if you want to see more, make sure to subscribe. But apart from that, thanks for watching folks, good luck and have fun, and as always, I will see you next time.